I always wanted to know what that looked like. And even in the last few days of his life, I asked, I was on the phone with palliative care and with his primary care doctor, giving them the play-by-play on what I was seeing. And I said, what is this going to look like? I want to know the truth. I mean, is he just going to stop breathing? Is he going to have a seizure? Like, what's going to happen? And the palliative care doctor told me, she said, I can't tell you that, but she said, I can tell you that what we would tell you is to just treat the symptoms. If he has a fever, treat the fever. If he's having apnea, give him something for that. It was like, just treat the symptoms, take one thing as they come, don't get overwhelmed by the entire picture. And so to back it up a little bit, we had all sort of contracted this really awful respiratory virus. One by one, we just were going down like flies, all of us in our house. And we took a short family trip in a motorhome just the week before he passed away. And we all started to get sicker while we were on this trip, and we were in a close environment. And I really, really always tried to keep Sam like as isolated as I could, but it was inevitable. And we came home on a Sunday night. Monday morning, he had a fever. And I thought, here we go, he's going to go down too. And a few years ago, he had a really bad respiratory illness, and it weakened him. And it was, I think you had mentioned this before when we talked, it was sort of like a dry run for us. It was very scary, nearly life-threatening. But he made it, and I knew the next time he presented with something like this, the chances were very slim that he would survive it. And that really ramped up my efforts even more to make sure I had the tools on hand to make sure this kid was going to be comfortable and not in distress. And so he had the fever, then the coughing started, and it went so fast. I kicked it into high gear. I kicked it into nurse mode, and I used all my tools I had here to try to help him. And I went as fast and as hard as I could. And I want to clarify, I wasn't trying to save him. I was trying to make him comfortable. That was always the goal. I just wanted him comfortable. And as fast and as hard as I went to try to do that for him, my efforts were just futile. The illness really got bad quickly. And about the second day in, he started sleeping. And I, in hindsight, can look back and see the signs of the dying process started on that second day already. And so he started to sleep more. There were a few apnea episodes, but we got him through those. The coughing was nasty. I won't go into detail. It was nasty. And then I had a conversation, I think it was, so this was like a Monday, it started. On Thursday, I had a conversation with his primary care doctor. And I said, listen, I don't know what's happening here. I'm really not sure, but his oxygen levels are scary, like scary low. And he said, I asked him too, I said, what is gonna happen here? And he just said, Brenda, he just won't wake up again. And I hung up the phone and I realized he had been sleeping for 2 days. He had not woken up. And I switched in that moment from being his nurse to being his mother. And I went in his room and I crawled into his bed. And I told him all the things I needed to tell him because I knew this might be it. And I had no idea that I would only have hours left. I had no idea. But I knew it was important to tell a person that they can go, to tell them that they don't need to stay there for you, that you are all going to be okay when they're gone. So I told him all of those things that you're supposed to do. And like I said, I wasn't sure if this would be it or not, but it was necessary for me to release him, to release his soul, to just say, you don't have to try so hard anymore, Sam. You're tough. You're almost too tough. You just don't have to do this. And somehow through the course of that evening, we all ended up in his room, which we don't really do, but we ended up in there, and it was beautiful. You know, my youngest was up on the bed with him, and we were all laughing and talking, and and then it was just getting late, and I said, all right, we have to go to bed, you know, and Sam was resting peacefully, probably the most peaceful I have ever seen him rest and breathe rhythmically in at least several years. And so that gave me peace, seeing him. There was no struggle. He was so peaceful. And I got my youngest to bed, and his room is right across the hallway. And I just thought, okay, I'm just gonna lay here for a few more minutes with him. And then I was gonna sleep in the chair in Sam's room that night. I just thought I probably shouldn't, I should not be far away. And as I was laying there, literally minutes after my youngest went to sleep, I heard something change with his breathing. And I came in and I looked at the pulse ox monitor on his finger, and there was no reading. And I actually thought there was something wrong with it. I clipped it off and I clipped it back on again, and I went, there's still no reading. And then I looked at his face, and his body let out one more breath. And I looked at the clock, and I looked at the time, and then I yelled for Josh, and he came in, and he looked at him and he said, that's it. That's it, he's gone. And it was the most beautiful experience besides the day he was born. I wanted to be there. I told him that if I had that wish that I could be there, that would be an honor to me. I was not going to be afraid. I owed him that. I felt like I owed him that after a lifetime of medical interventions and tubes and needles and machines, and I didn't want him hooked up to anything if I had the choice. And in the end, I couldn't have asked for a more beautiful, peaceful ending to that boy's life that he deserved. He really deserved that. And there was no struggle. There was no gasping. It was one more breath. And it was beautiful. It really was beautiful.